All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're putting on our management consultant hats to break down what is, without a doubt, the single most critical document for any project success, the Project Charter. Think of this as your inside guide to building a rock-solid foundation for pretty much any initiative you're ever going to lead.
Lewis Carroll wasn't a project manager, but he absolutely nailed the core problem that sinks so many projects. Without a clear destination, teams just wander. Resources get wasted and success becomes a game of chance, not strategy. The Project Charter is designed to stop that chaos before it even starts.
So what's the answer? Well, it's the Project Charter. And listen, this is not just another piece of paperwork to fill out and file away. No way. It's your map, your compass, and your project's constitution, all rolled into one powerful document. It is the definitive solution to ambiguity.
We've structured our briefing today into 6 key parts. First, we'll cover the why, the project's North Star. Then we'll deconstruct its core components. After that, we'll get into defining your project's boundaries and aligning the key players. Then we'll touch on executing the plan, and finally wrap it all up with your blueprint for success. So let's start with the big picture. Why is this one document so non-negotiable? Well, because a project without a charter is like a ship without a North Star. It's just adrift. The charter provides that one unwavering point of reference that everyone can look to. So what is it exactly? At its heart, it's the document that gives the whole project purpose and motivation. It acts as the single source of truth for your team, but also as a key reference point for the entire company. It's the guiding hand that keeps everyone aligned and focused, from the very first day to the final deliverable. Okay, let's get into the architecture of a really great charter. And to do this like a true consultant, we're going to use a MISI approach. That's mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. It's just a structured way to make sure we cover all the critical pillars without any overlap or gaps.
And here they are, the 3 foundational pillars. You've got the problem statement, which defines the what, the goals and objectives, which clarify what success actually looks like, and the business case, which answers the most important question of all: why are we even doing this? Together, these 3 form the unshakable logic of your entire project. Now, the key word here is objectivity. A really strong problem statement uses cold, hard data to describe the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. It avoids pointing fingers, and, this is so critical, it avoids suggesting a solution up front. That focus on what is versus what to do is what keeps the team's mind open to finding the real root cause later on.
And this really shows you the crucial relationship between the problem statement and the business case. The problem statement says, hey, here's the pain we're feeling, that's the what. Then the business case comes in and argues why the organization should spend its precious time, money, and people to make that pain go away. That's the why.
So, the crucial point here is that the business case is what gets your project funded and put at the top of the list. And it does this by drawing a straight, undeniable line from your project's outcome to the company's biggest strategic goals. I mean, the source material is crystal clear on this. If you can't tie it to strategy, you shouldn't be doing the project. Full stop. Right, so once the what and the why are locked in, you have to define the how. That's where SMART goals come in. They're the mechanism you use to turn that abstract problem into concrete, measurable objectives. And this isn't just business jargon. It's the framework that makes sure everybody on the team knows exactly what the finish line looks like.
Okay, we have our core purpose. Now we need to draw the lines on the map. This is all about defining the project's scope, and it is an absolutely critical step to prevent that dreaded scope creep that has doomed so many projects.
Scope is really all about clarity. It tells you exactly where your project starts and where it ends. It tells the team what's in bounds and, maybe even more importantly, what's out of bounds. This sharp focus is what lets you concentrate all your firepower on the organization's most critical needs.
So how do you actually define scope in a rigorous way? Well, let's open up the consultant's toolkit. There are 3 really powerful tools we can use to visually and logically map out a project's boundaries.
First up, we have process maps. By literally drawing a picture of the process step by step, you force a real conversation about where it truly begins and ends. Honestly, this is often the first time different departments have ever seen the full end-to-end flow. This visual clarity just wipes out assumptions and gets everyone on the same page about the terrain your project will cover.
Next up, the Pareto chart, which is based on that famous 80-20 principle. This tool is all about ruthless prioritization. See, in any complex system, a tiny number of causes usually create the vast majority of the problems. The Pareto chart helps you separate these vital few from the trivial many so you can focus your effort where it'll have the biggest impact. It's your defense against trying to boil the ocean.
I mean, just look at this example. It's immediately obvious that problem A is the elephant in the room. Instead of spreading your resources thin trying to fix everything, the Pareto chart screams at you to aim your fire directly at that first bar. That right there is data-driven scoping.
And finally, fishbone diagrams. Now, while process maps and Pareto charts help you figure out where to focus, fishbone diagrams help you brainstorm why the problem exists in the first place. It's a structured way to explore all the potential root causes: people, process, technology, you name it. So you're not just guessing.
So, we've defined the what, the why, and the where of our project. Now it's time to shift our focus to the who. Because, let's be honest, a project is only as strong as the people who are driving it. And clarity here is completely non-negotiable.
A team really performs at its absolute peak when every single person knows their exact role and what's expected of them. The charter has to explicitly name the project sponsor, the person who champions the cause, the team leader who guides the daily work, the core team members who get it done, and of course, the major stakeholders who are going to be impacted by the project.
And making this stakeholder list visible and public, that's not just some administrative task. It has a huge practical benefit. It dramatically reduces the chances that your team is going to accidentally step on another department's toes. This simple act of identification can prevent so many political battles down the road. It might even help you find allies and resources you didn't even know you had.
All right, with the mission defined and the team aligned, the charter moves into the really practical stuff, the execution. How are we going to measure progress, and what are the big, scary risks we need to keep an eye on?
Milestones, or toll gates as they're sometimes called, are basically the major checkpoints along your project's journey. They are agreed upon dates for completing each major phase of work. And these aren't just arbitrary deadlines. They are firm commitments that make sure the project keeps moving forward and stays on track.
And finally, a great charter faces reality head-on. It identifies the major constraints and dependencies. Now, the key here isn't to list every single tiny thing that could possibly go wrong. It's to identify the critical few showstoppers, that handful of events that could completely sink your project if they happen.
So let's bring this all home. We've walked through the strategy, the components, the boundaries, the people, and the plan. What's the final crucial takeaway about the project's charter that you absolutely have to remember?
This is probably the most critical point of all. The project charter is not a static document you create on day one and then forget about. It is a living, breathing guide. As your team learns more and the project evolves, the charter has to evolve with it, constantly serving as your team's single, updated source of truth.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you kick off your next project, is that charter going to be just another box you have to check, or are you going to treat it as the essential blueprint it's meant to be, the very foundation upon which you build your success? The choice, really, is yours.